Hey guys, Stephen Marcus here, and for this week's public history research, I decided to do the Old Barracks Museum in Trenton, New Jersey. What I find fantastic about this museum is that it has such a rich history of public history for over the last 250 years. It has served as military barracks, a medical hospital, and many different roles within public history. And what's cool and fascinating is it reminds me of Colonial Williamsburg, which is a place I visited as a child, and I've always been fascinated with people that do the reenactments as you see down here. Thought that was always so cool. All right, so introduction to the site. The old barracks was built in 1758 to house British regulars during the French and Indian War. It is the only surviving colonial military barrack structure in New Jersey when the American Revolution began. The building quickly became a strategic point used by both armies. And we'll go over that as this slideshow unfolds. Built in 1758 for the French and Indian War, so it predates the Revolutionary War. As I mentioned, only surviving colonial barracks in New Jersey and active during the American Revolution. All right, so the barracks in the Revolution. During the Revolution, the barracks served as winter quarters for British and Hessian soldiers occupying New Jersey. It stood directly beside the main Hessian positions that Washington targeted in his famous Christmas night attack, which I included that beautiful, famous painting of George Washington crossing the Delaware within his slideshow as well. The building essentially sat on the front line of the Trenton campaign. So if you look at this map, you may be able to see it. The building's going to be right here. So winter quarters for British and Hessian troops, part of the Trenton garrison, and connected to Washington's 1776 offensive. So Washington's 1776 campaign. David Hackett Fischer's Washington's Crossing helped me understand why this attack was such a turning point. Fischer argued that the victory at Trenton restored American morale at a moment when the entire revolution was hanging by a thread. Edward Lengel's biography of Washington supports the military interpretation and shows how the Trenton-Princeton campaign reshaped the Army's outlook. So here's that awesome painting. I love this painting. All right, and here's a depiction of some reenactors dressed as Hessian troops. They have these cool hats. All right, turning point in patriot morale. Fischer and Lengel explain the strategic importance. They're going to be linked to my bibliography. And Trenton-Princeton campaign reshapes war. So multiple wartime uses. According to the museum's records, the barracks served several purposes beyond housing soldiers. British prisoners of war were kept in the officer's house. It was also where 4 companies of the 2nd New Jersey Regiment were raised. In 1777, the Continental Army converted the site into a military hospital. And here are some rooms located within the museum. It's cool. You got British uniforms up here. All right, so New Jersey Continentals raised here. Army Hospital established in 1777. So it was also a hospital, and it had a smallpox inoculation. You're going to see this image right here, and it also explains this as well in here. But one of the most important but lesser known roles of these barracks was its use as a smallpox inoculation hospital under Dr. Bodo Otto. Washington ordered widespread inoculation across the Army, and this site played a key role. The medical history here reminds us that disease was just as deadly as the battlefield. And it just kind of reminds me of my time in the military, how we have to get flu shots and all different shots. It's something that has started way back when and is still prevalent today. So directed by Dr. Bodo Otto, mass smallpox inoculation and critical for Army survival. So preservation history, and if I move my picture over here, you're going to see a photograph of it being preserved or redone in the early 1900s. So after the Revolution, the barracks declined significantly by the early 1900s. It was nearly torn down. Local women's heritage organizations, including the Daughters of the American Revolution and the Colonial Dames, stepped in and raised funds to save it. Their efforts created the Old Barracks Association and preserved the building for future generations. So, public history and interpretation. The museum has been operating for more than a century, and it is often used as a symbol of New Jersey's revolutionary heritage. The site's modern interpretive plans show a shift forward, blending military, medical, and social history, reflecting how the field of public history has evolved. Here's another inside look at the museum, as well as some uniforms right here. So even the museum itself is a museum for over 100 years. So competing interpretations. There are at least two major interpretations of this site. One focuses on its military significance as part of the decisive victory at Trenton. The other highlights its social and medical dimensions, including the experience of Hessians, prisoners, and inoculated soldiers. Both interpretations shape how the public remembers the revolution today. And if you look at this picture above is wounded Hessian Colonel Rawl. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, as he surrenders Trenton to George Washington, December 1776. So its value for teaching. A field trip to the site could give students a chance to walk inside an actual 18th century military space. It also encourages inquiry-based learning because students can compare competing narratives and see how historians interpret the same location in different ways. And as I mentioned, when I was a young kid and I got to see the reenactors at Colonial Williamsburg and other sites throughout my journey at different locations on the East Coast with my grandfather, I believe that students would definitely remember this location for the reenactors and just all the visuals that they're going to get. So inquiry-based learning. So conclusion. The Old Barracks connects battlefield, medical, and social history. So in conclusion, the Old Barracks Museum is a rare site that connects battlefield events, medical innovation, and social history. Its long preservation story also shows how public memory is shaped. It offers a rich opportunity for both teaching and historical interpretation. And then lastly is going to be my sources I use, which are going to be also present in my abstract that I link within the discussion post. All right. But I look forward to looking at all of your videos, all your responses for this discussion on public history. And I hope all of you have a great Thanksgiving and God bless.